Well, good evening once again, and welcome to the Monday Review Show. It's now 2024. My goodness, another year has gone by. And Happy New Year to all of you, and particularly to you, Keith, and for everything you've done for the show for the last year, and for all you're going to do this year, let's hope. To all of you out there watching, a very happy New Year to you. Let's hope it's a happy, peaceful, and prosperous New Year. And emphasis probably on the peaceful, with so much fighting and killing and people dying and wars around, particularly in the Middle East and in Ukraine and other places. My goodness, it's absolutely atrocious, and certainly don't want to get into the politics of it, but let's hope there's an end to all that killing very, very soon. We go out on Facebook, we go out on YouTube, we go out on Twitter. Now, if you'd like to ask a question or make a comment on the show or to Keith or myself, please do so. There's a little thing on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. If you just look down there, and you can leave a comment, but you're very, very welcome. To the new viewers, you are also very, very welcome. To the older viewers, people who have been with us in the past, welcome back, and thank you for sticking with the show. On this show, we discuss all things refereeing for those of you who have not seen the show before, and incidents from previous games, where Keith and I will endeavour to clarify incidents that happened. You may disagree with, you may agree with, but certainly our expert on the other side is Keith Hackett, and between us we'll endeavour to explain things. So a couple of incidents happened over the festive season, and I'd like to go with the first one. It was Arsenal and West Ham on Thursday, the 28th of December. Now, a goal was scored, and it appeared as if the ball had gone out of play. Now, remember, the referee carries a little watch. It looks like a little watch on his arm to indicate goal, the ball is completely over the line or not. That only applies to the area within the goals, not outside the goals per se. Did you see that, Keith, and what did you think?
I did see it. I know, having worked with goal line technology, and you very kindly, a couple of 3 weeks ago, put up a photograph of a sphere and a line. And
let me see if I can find it again. Yeah.
And that indicated how difficult it is from a viewing angle of a match official, a referee in particular, giving whether the ball is in and out of play. The PGMOL, in determining afterwards or clarifying the situation afterwards, said that they were satisfied the ball was not out of play. And they took that view not on any use of technology, but that of the assistant referee who was doing his job. They were quite clear that the assistant referee was looking down the goal line, and he himself did not raise his flag to indicate the ball out of play. But it just shows why we have goal line technology. We have goal line technology, again, 7 cameras around each goal, operating at 500 frames per second through a computer software. And there are the clips that can deceive the spectator and the match official. And therefore, you have to go on exactly what you've got in front of you. And in this case, it's the assistant referee.
Yeah, now in this instance here, just to explain to the viewers, Keith, the blue part is actually off the field of play. The green, slight green that you can see, is the field of play, and the line is the goal line. And the emphasis has to be on the circumference of the ball, not the part that touches the ground, but the circumference. Correct. And on the right-hand side of the top right-hand picture, you can see, even though it looks out of play, that ball is actually in play.
Correct. And this is why, you know, we spent a year developing goal line technology. I was heavily involved in that.
And you were involved indeed, yes.
Yeah, and it was amazing how you could you could actually be on the goal area line 6 yards out from the goal line itself and still not make an accurate judgment. You'd looked at it and said, "Oh, that's a goal, surely." And then when you went to the goalpost and looked across the line, it was well outside and not a goal. And so therefore, what you're doing is you're using the outside circumference of the ball. The cameras capture it and then traject it through a software program and give you an accurate decision that the ball has crossed the line. And nothing else, no other signal to the referee. He gets it in his watch, it says goal. One thing that they could do, they've not done, is that they could actually extend that technology, if they so desired, to run it along the goal line.
Can that be done from corner flag to corner flag?
Yes, and that would be slightly different camera settings, similar software, but it could be done at an expense. And it's like everything else. The goal was something that had to be resolved. It's such an important aspect of the goal. The judgment as to whether the ball in and out of play on or a corner kick or a goal kick is important. There's no question about that. And therefore, how far do we go down the line with technology? That's the question. And of course, VAR is not helping the cause at the moment, or hasn't done for the last 4 years.
Yeah. It would be ideal. Now, the occasions when that type of incident would arise are few and far between, and people might say, well, it's not worth the expense, and I don't know how expensive it would be, but some might say it's not worth the expense of extending the goal line technology, the watch situation, from corner flag to corner flag. But that incident there, a goal was scored. And, that could mean 3 points. It could mean the difference of winning the league. It could mean the difference of getting relegated. It could mean qualifying for Europe, etc., etc. So the consequences are so high. Would that outweigh the cost or the expense involved?
No. I think that what you have to do, in the same way that, I stood up at the Premier League meeting one summer and said, I want goal line technology. With the owners of clubs and managers and various other people in that room, they looked at me as though I'd come off a planet. I explained why I wanted it. I showed the clip of the Manchester United-Tottenham game, and they said, go and get it. Now, I don't think that they believed that was going to be possible. But in fairness, Dr. Paul Hawkins, the scientist, Hawkeye, used the technology that they were used to using in cricket and in tennis in particular, and developed that very quickly. We used Motsford Park, the Fulham training ground, and we had people carrying the ball over the line. We had people putting the ball under the sweater, all those sort of things. The reality is that I think wherever you're going to introduce technology in the game, you have to write a very clear criteria of what you want. So let's go, I'm slightly diverting here. If we look at the offside decisions, we're spending an awful lot of time drawing lines on offside decisions. We've no need to do that because technology is available. The semi-automated system developed by FIFA, used at the World Cup, worked very successfully. And that is a system where you have a chip in the ball, which is important because that then determines the exact point at which the ball is kicked or played forward. And you have AI, artificial intelligence, with various points on every position of every player, so that will give you the first element. The player is in an offside position. Then it's back to the match officials to determine whether that player is interfering with play, has again an advantage, and you bring the law into effect. But I think a lot of the delay that's taking place at the moment is getting this line drawn on the screen using the technology. It's not quick enough. So the thing I say is this. We've had 2 this season. We had one recently. And therefore, I think Howard Webb, in his role as PGMOL, has to sell and try to convince the Premier League to invest in taking that system from corner flag to corner flag. And what's interesting, of course, you could have it right down the touchline if you wanted to really be fully discovered. You could do that as well.
How far are we from referees turning up in their three-piece suit and their briefcase and not being on the field of play at all? With obvious progression.
Yeah.
If you're going to bring in all of this technology. Having said all that, of course, I'm being a bit facetious, but having said all that, it's important that justice is not only done but seen to be done, and that the team that deserves to win does actually win. But isn't it getting very, very finite now that they're talking about a toenail being offside?
Well, I mean, in effect, the law itself is relatively clear. I think it's debatable and becomes subjective around a deliberate play, interfering with an opponent. We all try to be clever. I think all those things can be covered with the use of technology and AI. But I go back to basics. Why did I stand up and say to the Premier League initially, we need communication kits? What do you want those for? Well, I want the referee to be able to talk to the assistant referee. I want a team effort. I don't want the referees searching out for a flag. So I think that where we have technology that can enhance the quality of decision making, we have to have it. Where we have big problems, in my opinion, and that is the current VAR operation, which I don't think anybody involved in football is happy with because it's subjective. I think we've got referees who one day will say it's clear and obvious, and on exactly the identical situation will not say it's clear and obvious. And I think what you have to do as the boss of the referees, what you have to do is reduce the amount of subjectivity around decisions, and give clarity and guidance, and say very clearly, this is handball, this is not handball, this is a red card, this is a yellow card. I mean, I watched a Hull City player sent off today. From the view of the referee, right, you cannot complain that he's made that call. Sadly, television, no VAR, shows that this is a reckless challenge and not a serious foul play challenge. The player's gone. So,
sorry to interrupt you there, but just on that, and as an added one, the VAR. You watched this game today. It was a championship game. Yes. There was no VAR.
No.
Officially, but the television footage showed that it was an incorrect decision. So why do we need the VAR system? Why can't we have the VAR guy sitting in the outside broadcast bus or upstairs, whatever, looking at this and communicating down to the referee, bump, 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 doing exactly what he would do if VAR was available? Why can it not be done? I mean, I just can't get my head around that. When I'm on that, actually, can I just also say, in the League Cup, VAR was not used. I know certain grounds don't have it. VAR wasn't used and will only be used in the semi-finals.
Yes, and you've obviously got the FA Cup, where from the third round on, if you're a Premier League team playing at home against a non-league team or a Football League team, VAR is in operation. I mean, I just think
there's no consistency even there among the soccer politicians.
Correct, and therefore, my view is very clear. I think that the FA Cup and the League Cup, if you're going to use VAR, it's only going to be used at the semi-final stage and not at any other stage. But, ultimately, at the end of the day, crikey, we've had 5 years and we're still mumbling and stumbling through decisions. When in fact, I don't know whether it's, we were paid to make decisions. These guys are paid an awful lot more. They're professional. And I can't understand why they make these errors. they're basic. You know, you're going to talk, I think, about you mentioned the Odegaard handball.
Yeah.
Well,
let's go on to that now,
yeah.
since you brought it up. Yeah. The Odegaard handball. For those of you, unfortunately, I'm not allowed to use clips anymore because of copyright and so on, but I'm sure most people saw it. And I couldn't understand why a penalty was not given, but it wasn't. And this whole thing, was he using his hand to protect himself? Again, Keith, the subjectivity comes into it, in that one referee decided that he was using his hand to balance because he was falling. Another referee will say something else. How are we ever going to get consistency? Let's just talk about that one, because there's another one with Everton and Man City also over the festive season. But we'll talk about this Liverpool Arsenal game, which was on Saturday, 23rd.
What you had was a player lost his balance and moved to his left, went down, the ball was in front of him, and he looked as though he was going to fall on the ball. He didn't. He leaned over. He didn't go to ground. He leaned over and he flipped the ball. And it was such an obvious decision of handball. Then, and you say to yourself, why didn't the referee see that? And then you've got another referee acting as VAR. There was a statement come out from the PGMOL almost immediately afterwards on TV, that sort of said, you know, this was the case where the player was falling down onto the ball. What was interesting was, I mean, I was asked the question almost immediately by the Telegraph, and I said, this is handball. Don't fudge it. This is handball. I don't blame the law. This is handball. It was that obvious. And the following morning, they came out a bit late with a statement to say this was handball. It was an error. But in a way, what are you going to do about it? Because these are two elite referees, both making an inaccurate judgment. The role of the PGMOL is to get those referees in a room, like it or not like it. And I know that Howard Webb at times was critical of me doing this, but he sat in front of a screen and we played incidents, we played them and said, right, make a decision. And out of the room, when they stepped out of the room, we're all on the same page. If we weren't, we didn't step out of the room. So handball, the law itself is not easy. I think it's too subjective. I think David Eller and the people at the IFAB have tried to clarify, but have complicated handball.
Oh, unbelievably complicated, Keith. And just for the viewers who are watching, the video to you, Keith, is freezing every now and again. But I'm getting audio.
I don't know why.
Audio.
Yeah.
I mean, the old way was the movement of the hand or arm towards the ball, not the ball towards the hand. And then they bring in this thing about making the body bigger and there you go. You got it there.
1936.
There you
1936. The laws of the game. I mean, Errol.
Go on, read it out for us, Keith. Read it out.
Well, I'm going to do, because it says, right, this is how simple it is. A player shall be penalised if he intentionally handles the ball, i.e., carries, strikes, or propels it with the hand or arm.
Well, and I mean, how many actual? I was going to say how many lines. It's not even a paragraph. It's probably 2 lines and maybe 10, 15 words, and that's it in a nutshell. Now, oh my goodness, it's making the body bigger and it's honestly, it's very difficult to explain to people the actual simple handball. It's such a simple one, and even offside. I mean, so simple.
I've always worked, and I say to young referees, use and emphasize the word deliberate. deliberate handball. Just use that, and that makes your judgment. Obviously, when we've got players running down the right wing and they're a metre away from their opponent, and then they make a snapshot, right? The player can't get his hand out of the way. You're not going to penalise that. But see, you get referees in the room and they'll argue, just a minute, that's handball.
Yeah.
And I feel that the IFAB need to go back and interrogate the decision. One of the things is that, look, I know that games are covered around the world, in other competitions around the world, but the intensity of the Premier League, 22 cameras, every game covered, transmitted to 211 territories around the world. Just go to a newsstand on a Monday morning and pick up the newspapers. There's just the phone-ins that take place. So there is a thirst for questioning the referee's decision, for sure, making life more difficult for referees. But this is why we made them professional.
Yeah.
To work with sports psychologists to reduce the tension and pressure and to make them fitter and more mobile so they're in good positions to make decisions. They weren't amateurs like us in a professional environment. We had the discipline, but now, life's changed. And I just think that we need to get back to basics. And the basics are, what is a foul? It's as simple as that. Is it handball? Is it a careless challenge, a reckless challenge? Does it endanger this? These sort of questions and knowledge of the law, just apply them.
Yeah. And now, since we're on that, so we've got another handball incident where Everton and Man City. And you remember this one, the Everton player, the ball hit him under the arm, sort of, and that was given as a penalty.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to get confused now. I think I'm going to stop it. I think we're going to stop talking about penalties on this show, Kate, because now even I'm confused.
I thought it was interesting because I've seen a comment from a guy called Jay Boothroyd on social media, and he's involved in football. And I think Dermot Gallagher, who I like Dermot. I think he's a really nice guy. And Dermot comes on to Sky Ref Watch to explain decisions. And he ducked 3 penalty kicks. He just didn't answer them. And you're looking and going, Dermot, you're getting paid to give us the answer. I know what the answer is. Mm-hmm. I make a judgment. I might be wrong on occasions, but I look at the law, I look at the incident, I can have another look, which is not afforded to me when I was refereeing, but is afforded to me now. This game, Sheffield Wednesday Hull, I don't blame the referee here. The referee had one judgment. The player came in pretty quick. I don't think the referee actually saw the landing zone. He took his time. It was measured. He obviously conferred with his assistants. He didn't have VAR, and he went for the red card. Well, you referees out there, don't guess decisions. Don't, by having part of the picture, guess that that's a red card, because it isn't. And I think that we've got referees who put themselves under pressure and not relaxed. Hey, there's some bright spots on the horizon. I thought Rebecca Welsh refereed her game quite well. Sam Allison refereed Luton Sheffield United, new to the Premier League, really well. Josh Smith did a good game, good performance this weekend. So these guys, we've got 1 or 2 young referees coming through. They've got to be given the chance. But yeah, I hope that they're given greater support by having an independent panel of VAR. I scream from the rooftops. Yeah. This is about being calm. It's about taking a breath. It's actually saying, I don't need to interfere with that. I think VAR should sit just in front of the screen and go, that is a penalty. just like the referee.
Yeah, yeah.
And if he
just speaking about Dermot Gallagher, and with the three questions and he never answered. Maybe that's why he's on there. That's why the likes of you and I are not on there, because we talk too straight. Touch of the Roy Keanes, I suppose. They don't like you when you talk too straight. But
Errol, we're not going to get refereeing improvement if we don't analyse the errors that are made, because we all know that our career was built on errors that we made that we never repeat. Mm-hmm. So we do get into situations where we don't see, we do make an error. It's then reviewing that decision and then determining, I'm not going to make that same mistake again.
Yeah. And I used to say to the referees in South Africa, videotape your game. In those days, we had the old VHS.
Yep.
Video your game, then go home and look at it and see what you did wrong. And if you only correct one mistake from each game, by the end of the season, you should be perfect, because there's 40 games. And sometimes, these guys, and you'd have a game every week. So if you have a game every week and you've got 40 games and you correct each mistake per game and don't repeat the previous mistake, you'll be perfect. But that's not happening at the moment. And I have a very good friend who said to me that he thinks the referees today are too scared to make a decision because they're afraid that the television replays will find them out and expose them as making the wrong decision. That's why they'd rather wait for VAR.
Yeah, there is no doubt that as referees, we have to psychologically switch off from the spectators, from everything, because you have to have 100% concentration and focus on what you're doing. At the same time, you're telling and talking to yourself. And, when I was out on the field of play, funnily enough, I never made a mistake up here. I never went back and said, I might have got that one wrong, ever. You might say, well, that's an underlying arrogance. It wasn't, it was confidence. After the game, when I review it, I might say, I would have done differently here, but the benefit of any doubt on sanctions to players was left with the player. If I wasn't 100% in sending a player off, right, I wouldn't send that player off, even though the crowd's going bananas and saying off, all that. Yeah. In my own mind, I had to be 100% satisfied that player had committed a red card offence.
Yeah.
But I think the default position here sometimes is there is a worry. I mean, I've seen. And I put it under this banner. I've said it before. I put it under the banner of lazy referee. These guys got to the Premier League because they were good Football League referees. Make no mistake. The system filters out very carefully who gets to the elite level and who's offered a contract. Sadly, once they get the contract, they seem to go into comfort zone. And I think one of the problems is what you just mentioned. They referee one game a month or one every 3 weeks. That's not good, conducive for refereeing.
Yeah.
When I put the team sheet, Paul, Webb, Halsey invariably were out every week. And they'd come in sometimes. I mean, I once had one referee come in and say, look, Keith, I've got 5 or 6 more games than him. Why is that? You're working me harder. And I said, well, it's dead simple. You're a better referee than him. And they go, you're not going to, I've already said it. I look at refereeing. I benchmark the Premier League referees against Pierluigi Collina. And I examine Collina's performance. Collina did 12,000 meters a game, 1,000 meters, 50 sprints. We were doing 9.5, 25 sprints. In comes the sprint coach. We change from, if you like, endurance training to explosive sprinting.
Yeah.
Because I wanted them physically to measure up to Kalina. Then we started looking at the quality of decisions and the inconsistency that existed. So we give them training. And if they didn't improve, then I drop them.
Yeah.
And they'd come knocking on my door and say, why am I not getting a match? And I'm going, well, you can referee in Division 2, 3. Because until you get your form back, I'm not going to use you. And by the way, if you don't get your form back, you could be out of a job. And that has to be how tough it is when you're dealing at the very top level with such huge amounts of money and such huge, if you like, coverage of a game across the world.
Sure. 2 final quick questions, Keith. And I was asked these, I've misplaced the names of the guys. One was a penalty appeal and VAR. So the play goes on, the referee waits and so on. The team that the penalty appeal is against goes down the other end and scores a goal. And then VAR says, have a look at this. Is that goal allowed or not?
No. If the referee determines that a penalty kick should have been awarded by looking at the monitor, then at that point, the goal that's been scored is wiped out and the penalty kick taken. This is no different to, you can have a breakaway from the penalty area and the centre forward or the goalkeeper suddenly punches the centre forward. They go on and score. You go back, you send the goalkeeper off and award a penalty kick. It's no different in law.
Okay, great. And then the cynical one, which I saw during the week, I can't remember the game now, a second ball being accidentally, and I put it in inverted commas, rolling onto the pitch to slow down the game. Have you had experience of that?
Oh, listen, there are 2 experiences that I bring to the fore. The first one was Alan Wiley at Sheffield United, Bramall Lane, when he kicked off, when there was a lot of balloons on the field of play. And sadly, a shot on goal, the goalkeeper, for some unknown reason, went to save the balloon and the ball went into the back of the net. So we had a great debate. Obviously, in that situation, we then said, we're going to stop the game. And then this doesn't happen again, and all the balloons are burst. So that was that thing. There was a guy who was the assistant manager of Bolton Wanderers, Phil Brown, a really good manager as well.
I know of him, yeah, I know of him.
And once or twice, it was funny. I was at Bolton assessing the referee when suddenly the opposition to Bolton were on the attack, and a second ball would roll on, and the referee would stop play. Cynical. And of course it's made at that point. What was interesting was the Premier League used the multi-ball system and they withdrew it. Richard Scudamore, the boss then of the Premier League, withdrew it. He said, we're not having multi-ball for this very reason. Balls were coming on to the field, not just Phil Brown, but in other cases. It's interesting now the multi-ball has returned as the focus has been on the amount of time wasting and time delaying that's taking place in the game.
You mentioned about the balloon there, but there wasn't an incident at Sunderland a couple of years ago. Sunderland and Liverpool, I think it was, where a beach ball came on. Yeah. And the ball deflected off the beach ball and went into the net, and the goal was getting, and that's another story.
We know the law. It's an outside agent. It should stop immediately. Yeah. The one in there free kick. Those are things that do happen, and this is why we need the knowledge of the laws.
Keith, once again, many, many, many thanks for everything from last year, and thanks again for coming on, and we'll do it all again next Monday, please God.
Yeah, brilliant. Look forward to it.
And thank you out there for watching. Keep your comments coming in, both to Keith and myself, and we'll see you all again next Monday. Bye-bye.
Bye.